Welcome back, and let me start by thanking again our sponsors, obviously 7P, and but also IBM. James arrived yesterday. James, are you in the room somewhere? Not yet, but he arrived yesterday. And the guys from Lodom, which are always easy to find because I'm just looking at the t-shirts. So thank you guys again. If you want to know what they do, just speak with them. And and that's it for the sponsors for this time. So this is going to be day 2, which is the day after we were gathering, like the pre-conf. So if you ever come back again for another conference, be sure to be the day before, because the first pre-conf dinner was already a great introduction. After that, everybody get to pick your badges, just right in time when the people that I'm showing the badges are entering. And then we had a wonderful day yesterday with a lot of talks. And by the way, I only understood this joke with the car when I saw that on Twitter later. So Manu isn't there yet. Oh, you're just entering. It's awesome. Every time I'm showing a picture of someone, this person is entering. Let me Google more pictures. All right. So day 2 is also the day where some people are leaving. We're so sad for them. Nicholas left us yesterday. David left us yesterday. One of the beautiful view of Cologne, those weird offices over there. And also day 2 is most importantly the day when we will take this amazing jumping picture, which we do every day since many years. Every year. I do that every day, like at home. I jump every day. So be sure to be there. We'll do this at lunch, sometime at lunch. I guess just right before 2 p.m. or something like that, when everybody is like full of food and I'm asking you to jump. And the goal is always to jump the highest, obviously. But if you could be synchronous with everybody, not like that guy here. Yeah, some amazing. If you look at every single person, some people are doing some amazing tricks. So anyway, be ready to jump. And also, one little detail is there's going to be some kind of after conference gathering, and it's for those obviously who don't have to leave just right after the conference. We should be done around 4 p.m. Maybe a little bit late depending on. Today we're easy on the schedule, I couldn't find a picture of a beer, so that's why I put you a tea picture. But you can obviously drink in your cup. And one last thing. Yesterday we learned that talent is overrated. James, are you in the room? I don't see James. So I decided that, and we also in the panel, we discussed about all kind of new weird stuff, like with the HomePod, that we're going to be socially accepting different use case. So I was thinking about something because I was discussing a couple of days ago, or actually I was discussing yesterday with James about me that used to be a DJ, and I found this piece of funny technology, which is a Bluetooth crossfader, and I decided I was going to show you something before we keep on for like a minute, for like even a few seconds only, which is very interesting. This is I have to move this to the screen. So this is basically, speaking of new stuff, this is basically an app which is simulating a turntable, and you can basically scratch on an iPad, which is really weird. So I'm just going to give you like a 10 seconds demo, because this is my moment of fame, and we know talent is overrated anyway. So it's all about practice. So I'm going to practice for the next 4 hours. So the cool thing about this is, thank you very much. My mom thinks I'm the best DJ in the world. As a matter of fact, I used to end up number 3 in the championship in Belgium, but it's because we were 3. The really cool thing about this is there is no latency whatsoever, even though it's Bluetooth. But anyway, my point was, I started DJing like 20 years ago with like analog things, and and vinyls and whatnot. And today it's a lot of digital. And one of these things is like touching an iPad where the disc is actually not actually turning. Would be awesome if the iPad was turning. So this is kind of a weird change of stuff. So let me come back to the slides because I'm done. Yep. So. All right. So that's it for today. For me today, at least for my performance today. And let's move on to the next ones, and especially with Jessica, who's going to speak to us about design and developers and why designers should learn developing or not. We will discover this. So round of applause for Jessica.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jessica, and I'm a product designer. And I've been working on both native applications and web apps for the past 5 years. And I actually started my adventure not so far from here, because my first job was at a very early age startup in Bonn. And now I'm currently living and working in London, where I work for another startup, which is called Kawau. So as you might have guessed, I'm not here today to talk about Swift, but I'm here today to talk about something else. Something that is very controversial, maybe I must say. It's one of the most discussed topics in the tech industry, and it's, should designers code or should developers design? So being a designer myself, I have encountered a lot of articles just focusing on designers who should code. So it seems like that the focus is just on designers and not on developers. In fact, if you just start Googling should designers, that's what you get. So there's a lot of code here. But just for the sake of comparison, if you just start typing should developers, that's what you get. So there's no design mentioned here. But for designers, it's really important that they should code, because if they do, they are the unicorns. So when designers admit their lack of coding skills, that's what happens. Like every time a designer says, I can't code, there is a unicorn that falls down dead. But for developers, it's fine. If they say that they don't know how to design, everything is all right, because they are already unicorns, apparently. But let's just take a step back. Let's just have a look at designer and developer as individuals. So there are a lot of misconceptions surrounding our jobs. And I don't know about you, but every time I ask like what I do for a living, I'm really in trouble, because it's really difficult to explain what I do. In fact, this is what my mom thinks I do. And I think you might have experienced the same. And maybe sometimes you have even had that one friend who actually always calls you because the Wi-Fi is broken. So for designers, I think a lot of people think of us as just the creative ones. So we're just the people who can move pixels around, and we can just make things pretty. But of course, there's a lot more than that under the surface. For developers, you also have some misconceptions surrounding your role. And actually, TV shows like the HBO's One Silicon Valley have contributed to actually have this stereotype of the developer, which is the typical nerdy guy wearing funky t-shirts, always in front of their laptop. The desk may be full of cans of Red Bull because they just code all day. So they are mad scientists, the one who can actually type very, very fast on their keyboards. And we know this is true, actually. But designers and developers, I like to think that there's not a huge difference, because in the end, we all work towards the same goal. And our goal is to make the best user experience possible. So I like to think that designers and developers are actually two sides of the same coin, and our skills can complement each other. So collaboration is really important if you want to make things work. So we should just understand how to appreciate each other and have like a shared understanding of what we do. In fact, if you think about it for a moment, I would say that good code, when you actually see good code, it's well designed. And the same is for good design. When you experience good design, it's because it's well engineered in every aspect. So I think I can say that we are both engineers and both designers in what we do, and we all develop and we all design something. So let's just make this collaboration happen. There's no such thing as good design without good engineering and vice versa. So I think this is true because good design can only happen if there's a good overlap between the two disciplines. And if you think about a good meal for a moment, this meal is not great just because of one ingredient, but it's the sum of all the ingredients that makes it taste delicious. And the same happens to design. Also, design is not a phase that ends when development begins. This is really important. And I think a lot of you have experienced that situation when you're just aware of a design project only when the design deliverables hit your desk. And this is really, really bad. It doesn't matter how agile your company says to be, because this is waterfall. So when this happens, we hear the developer say, oh no, I can't build that, this is impossible. But why did that happen? Who's to blame here? Is it the designer or is it the developer? I think that this happens because the developers have not been involved in all the process since the beginning. So that's why you had the designer just going away, produce some great designs that look beautiful, but then they're actually, yes, they are impossible to build. Why? Because they didn't know about all the technical constraints. They were missing a lot of use cases and a lot of use case scenarios. So to actually avoid that, it's important that developers are involved since the beginning. Don't just think that because we designers are the ones who produce the wireframe and prototype that you don't have anything to add at that stage, because I think that stage is the most important one. Because developers tend to see things in a different way than we designers do, thanks like to your technical eye to details. So if you are involved since the beginning, then we can produce more informed design. Design should lead the development, and development should inform design. This is something that Aral Balkan, the founder of Indie, said, and I couldn't agree more, because this goes together with what I was saying before. So design should happen in parallel with development, because thanks to your insights, we can produce more informed design, and then it will actually become difficult to understand where design ends and when development begins, because both of them just blend together. It's also funny that there's a word, detail-oriented, and it's actually applying to designers, where in fact, a lot of edge cases are highlighted by developers during production. And actually, as I said yesterday, I'm lucky that I've been married to a developer, because I must admit that a lot of stuff that I know about design, I learned more from him than from any other designer. So let's just make the collaboration happen. Like yesterday, there were a lot of Venn diagrams talking about this intersection between designers and developers. And James was referring to that as magic. David was referring to that as design engineering, but I just like to call it love. Just love for collaboration, because collaboration is key, and only understanding what the other does, we can produce something better. So what are the benefits of collaboration? So the early involvement from both sides ensures that we are on the same track and we focus on the right things. Secondly, if we collaborate together, we designers can understand better how developers work, and we can understand better what's feasible and what's not, so we are more aware of technical constraints before instead that later in the process. And then the same goes for developers, because they can understand better how we work, what's the entire process, and why we made some decisions over others, so understand better what's good user experience. And then thirdly, there's more room for creative solution, thanks to the different insights that we contribute for. But in order to make this collaboration happen, it's important that we understand what the other does. So what do designers do? As I was saying before, a lot of people just think that we are just artists, and it's true. I have a lot of Sharpies and I color sometimes, but that's not what we do. Most people also think that you are not able to draw, you cannot even become a designer. But again, this is just a misconception, because design is about how it works. Design is about solving problems. And just as a random person in the industry said, design is not just what it looks and feels like, design is how it works. And yeah, this is true. We actually, we see good design and bad design every day in our life. Maybe you don't realize it, and this is good, because if you don't realize it, it means that it's good design, so it's providing a good experience. But we also experience bad design. For example, how would you open the door on the left side? Door is something that should be really intuitive to use. It shouldn't come with manual instructions, but here we are. We have labels on these two doors, actually instructing us how to use them. And this is what poor user experience is. So I like to think that we designers have actually the power to turn pixels into experiences. So if good design happens, we can really make a difference. We can make people's lives easier. We can solve real problems. So to explain better what product design is, I'm going to use this clip from the McDonald's movie, The Founder. And this scene in particular stood out to me because I think it's the pure essence of product design is. So in this scene, we can see the two brothers turning a tennis cart into a giant prototype. What they were trying to do was to find the perfect workflow to cook and serve a hamburger in under 2 minutes. And so to do that, they just used a piece of chalk. They start drawing all the cooking equipment. Then they just called in or their employer, and they tested it on the ground. And every time something went wrong, they were iterating on the process again, again, and again until they found the perfect solutions. And this is exactly what we as designers do. So we have this process where we start by empathizing. So we need to understand who are we designing for, first of all. Then we go and define the problem, what are the main pain points, and prioritize the user needs. Then we go and ideate some solutions, and then to validate them, then we go and prototype and then test them and iterate on the process until we find the best solutions. But of course, all this process should happen having developers involved so that we can all collaborate together. If it's true that developers should understand designers, then also we designers need to understand developers. And sometimes we have our frustrations where we do some designs, then we look at them and they look nothing like what we did, and we got frustrated. But I think that the most important thing here is to start empathizing with what you do. I've been actually guilty in the past when I was finding some bugs, and then I was just going straight to the developer and said, can you fix this? This is only a 2 minutes fix. But then I just started learning a little bit about code. In fact, I'm learning front-end at the moment. And as soon as I got my hands dirty, as soon as I started to dig into code, I realized that there's a lot more under the surface, and there's nothing like a 2 minutes fix, actually. And yeah, this is important because it opened my mind. It made me understand the platform I'm designing for. It made me understand how I should design, actually, to make also developers' life easier. So this is important. But as soon as we scrap the surface, we come to the conclusion that the most important thing is mindset rather than skills, because as well as James talked yesterday, we learned that it's not the tool that makes you great. So the most important thing is learning about the soft skills. So just understanding what the other does and learning from them, because you can be easily like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. So the most invaluable thing we can learn is the soft skills. But how to improve design understanding? I think that for developers, even if you don't become a great designer, the most important thing to do is at least grasp the essential of design just to foster the relationship with the designer. But how can you improve this understanding? I think the best developers I've been working with had a very, really good eye for design. Maybe they even attempted to be one. And if you just learn a little bit of basic, then you can avoid a situation like this, when maybe you just produce a solution, you're really proud of it, but then as soon as the designer looks at it, he can see that maybe it's not the best user-friendly interface, but the developer couldn't tell because they didn't have this good eye for design. So as soon as you understand the basic, then you can understand why, for example, we use some colors over others, why we choose some fonts, why spacing is important, why we use a lot of white space. So just understanding enough so that next time it wouldn't be like that when you show your solution and say, oh, look, I solved the problem, and then you have the designer say, yeah, but can you move it to pixel off, because you understand why we made the decisions. At the end of the day, actually, developers just want to make it work, to make it functional. And we designers just make people love what you've built. If I haven't convinced you enough, maybe I can convince you with this example. This is Lauren Brichter. I think all of you know who this person is. And this is a developer with a strong design focus. So he's the inventor of the pull to refresh. And the pull to refresh was very cool that Apple decided to standardize it. So now we have it on iOS. And the most important thing is that thanks to his design focus, he was able to build it. So he actually saw that there was a problem. He envisioned the solution. He went and built it, he shipped it, and the rest is history. So that's why it's important to learn a little bit of design. At the same time, we designers also need to improve the development of the understanding. But on the design side, I must say that a lot of things are happening, a lot of things are changing. We are already opening ourselves to more engineering workflows. For example, we have some movements like atomic design, which is really helping us. For those of you who don't know what atomic design is, it's a methodology for building design systems, and it borrows a lot of concepts from object-oriented programming. According to atomic design, we are not designing pages, but we are designing system of components. Like in the past, we designers using Photoshop, we were just producing very static mockups, but thanks to this new methodology, we are starting to see the bigger picture. So with atomic design, we have the smallest elements possible, which are atoms, and then we combine them in molecules, they become organisms, and then in the end we have templates and pages. And at Carwell, where I work, we are really fan of the atomic design. In fact, when the book came out, we actually had a book club, and all developers and designers were gathering together to discuss about it. And so we have a very awesome style guide with all reusable UI components. And I'm really happy because I'm contributing to this style guide, both design-wise and also code-wise, because I'm pairing with a front-end developer there. And yes, these are my commits. I'm really happy of that. When I did my first PR, I was really, really happy, and I had 20 reviewers. And actually, it was just something like fixed typo in the title. So this is an example of our style guide, but more than the end product itself, I would say that the co-creation of a style guide is a really exercise to actually start this collaboration between designers and developers. So I would really invite you to do something similar because it really helps. Secondly, Sketch is the tool that we used for design, is also really helpful for helping us having a different mindset, because even in Sketch, we can create our own style guide. We have symbols, and as soon as we update a symbol, it updates everywhere. So it's the same concept as the live style guide that we have. And also just the creation of the symbol put us in the same mindset as a front-end developer, because, for example, these are some of the symbols created for the inputs variation. So it's exactly the same as you will do to build the ones in the lifestyle guide. Also, we have Abstract, which is a tool that we started using a few weeks ago. It's something that can be called the Git for designers. We didn't have anything like that before. And actually, we started using Git because we wanted something similar what you have to have version control. But Git doesn't work very well with sketch files, because what we wanted to see was actually the visual difference for the files. So we just started using Abstract, but it's exactly the same workflow. So we have a master file, which is our source of truth. We can create branches, we can comments. We then have commits, so we can see the full history. And it's really working well. Already using this put us in your mindset and help us understanding how you work. So going back to the original question, should designers code? I don't think it's necessary. I think that designers should learn as much code as they are interested into. If they learn how to code, it's good for them. But yeah, I don't think it's strictly binding, because the most important thing is to understand how the other works. The same, should developers design? They shouldn't become designers, but just grasp the essential to foster the relationship. So let's just make this collaboration happen, because only if we learn what the other does, we can start becoming better. And I really think that each one of us just wants to become better. The more we understand what our colleagues does, the more we learn from them, the higher the chance of creating a better solution. So let's just learn how to appreciate each side for what they contribute for, and we all will the better for it. These are some resources that I recommend if you want to learn more about user experience. The first one is a book that I couldn't recommend more, which is The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. The second one is Don't Make Me Think by Steve Kirk. Both of them are not like very young. They're pretty old, actually, but they're still relevant. And then we have Atomic Design for Building Design Systems. Thank you.
All right, time for questions. Be ready about your questions. In the meantime, I'm always amazed to see how I was amazed about your workflow with Git and all the stuff, because it's pretty atypical with designers, right?
Yes.
Like most designers I know actually are happy working with a file in a folder. Is it like is it new for you to work more? I would say like a developer in terms of the workflow, or is it something you've been doing in the past as well?
No, it's something that it's new. It actually started a few months ago. We started to see a problem actually, because we were starting overwriting our sketch files, which was not cool.
It's a nice way to put it. It was not cool.
Yes.
Where's the design?
Yeah. But then since we have a good relationship with developers, so we start and see, but that what they have like using Git, it's actually something that we wanted to have as well. So that's why we started creating our repo on GitHub and doing everything like that. So we were really happy. We're like, oh yeah, I can see what one person is changing. We can work on the same file at the same time. We can branch out. We can merge it. We were quite happy. And then we were actually started to feeling a little bit more nerds, actually more geeky. But this workflow, I think it works really, really well for us. So having this tool, Abstract, it's helping. and it's built by designers. So I think things are changing.
It's interesting that all those tools like Photoshop or Sketch or other stuff don't have like user management built in, like modification. Because if I think about like something like Microsoft Word, it has this kind of changes built in where you see when someone did a change, or say a shared note in Notes, or back in the day Sabitha edits and stuff like that. Because it doesn't have to be that complicated that you have to learn Git, but it should be that more of those, because all those tools, they're just thinking, they're thought for single users, right?
Yeah.
Which is a problem. All right.
So do you deliver your sketch files directly to developers, or do you export some sort of
we use Zeppelin, or we have actually now Marvel to actually hand over our design files. But every time we start the design project, we always involve the developers from the beginning, so they already know what to expect. And even when we hand our design specs, there's always a conversation before, and we try to actually prepare everything, explaining what exactly we are changing. And so we try to explain. Actually, there's a lot of back and forth.
Somebody else? 2. All right. I'll make it in a geographical optimized direction, right? So, yeah, I'm starting here, and then you can give the mic to TJ after.
Sure. Thank you, first of all. What I'm interested in is there any way, how you validate designs once they're out in the wild? Do you have like numbers that say, we changed the design and it performs better now? Or like just to close the loop and go back and say, probably let's reiterate over this and think about another solution? Or do you have any process in place for this?
Yeah, we do a lot of A, B, C, Ds at work. So that's how we validate. We also have some kind of steps before putting them live, even before we try to test with people before going out into the wild. But then, of course, the most important thing is what people think is usable. So we always listen to people. That's the most important thing. And then we go back and iterate in the process.
Thank you.
You mentioned style guides. Do you have any recommendations for, sort of how-tos for style guides, and sort of what the best practices are and what you should make sure that you include?
So I think what we have at CarWow is really cool, our live style guide. It was already there when I started, so it's good. I will suggest to do something like that, where you have all these reusable UI components, because it just makes life easier for everybody, especially at our company where we just have one front-end developer and the rest is all Ruby developers, like 30 of them. And most of them, they have this problem where they don't really see the difference in the UI because they just focus on the backend. They just want to make things functional. So having this tool helps them like focus on the right things. They don't need to worry about pixels being off because everything is already set up in the style guide. That's why I say it is really, really important. And also reusing components makes sure that we maintain consistency everywhere. But yeah, so I will just suggest to build it from scratch, actually.
Another question? All right, so shout if you have another question. You have another 5 seconds until I'm back to the stage, the virtual stage. All right, so thank you very much. Give Jessica a round of applause, please.